Welcome to the Workamper Show, a podcast devoted to helping you discover how to finance your RV travel dreams. I'm Steve Anderson, the president of Workamper News. Each one of our episodes will either introduce you to people who are already living the RV lifestyle or to opportunities to work short-term jobs. You'll also learn how to hit the road the right way and make the most of every opportunity. Now let's turn over today's show to your host, Greg Gerber.
Thank you, Steve. Today I have a fun interview with a woman who guides people on ways to transform just about any activity into an adventure. Today's episode is sponsored by Workamper News. With its Diamond and Platinum membership tools, Workamper News is much more than just a job listing website. The one-year memberships open the door to a one-stop shop for all things work camping. Most Diamond and Platinum members receive inquiries from employers within a day of posting their resumes online. The Workamper Experiences section of the website has compiled thousands of reviews of employers since 2007. Archived issues of Workamper News magazine describe thousands of job opportunities to help you plan your trips. If you're looking for work right now, the daily hotline email shows you what jobs are available in the states you're most interested in visiting. You're serious about leading a successful and enjoyable work camping lifestyle, then a Diamond or Platinum membership is for you. Get started today with a free 30-day trial by visiting www.workamper.com/trial. Heidi Dusek is a married mother of three who lives in northeast Wisconsin. Her family enjoys a lot of outdoor activities, and even though they own a pop-up camper, they have rented larger RVs in the past to take longer trips. Everyone loves the RV adventures so much that they are hoping to buy a motorhome soon to enjoy some periods of extended travel. Heidi works remotely and her husband is a teacher, so they do have more time for adventures in the summer. Even though they can't embrace a full-time RV lifestyle at the moment, they can enjoy short-term trips than those that extend for weeks at a time. She has always been pretty adventurous, but as Heidi got older, she didn't like being forced to choose between a life of adventure and becoming a mother and trying to fit a career into all her other responsibilities. So Heidi launched Ordinary Sherpa to build a community to inspire families to connect with each other through adventures. When COVID paralyzed even the most active of families, Heidi knew that the weekly field trips and backyard adventures her family enjoyed were much more than just fun outings. They were pillars holding up the entire family by allowing parents and kids to connect more closely with each other. Through Ordinary Sherpa, Heidi helps other families build lasting memories and discover how much fun it can be to share common experiences that enable everyone to really get to know each other on a more personal level. Heidi describes some of the things her family does to engage in adventures that don't cost a lot of money. In fact, many times they are free. As an Ordinary Sherpa, Heidi encourages parents to create opportunities for their children to pursue their own interests, but with the family as well. Her kids are old enough now that they can research things to do in an area once a destination has been set. Making the children part of the planning process simply enhances their feeling of adventure. Grandparents can do this too. It's all about creating experiences and making memories. Heidi's kids will certainly remember their moose encounters on hiking trails much longer and more vividly than they would likely remember watching a new animated movie. Both are fine examples of entertainment, but adventures add life to living. To tell us her story and what Ordinary Sherpa can do for adults and families, please welcome its founder, Heidi Dusek, to the show. Thanks for joining us today, Heidi. I really appreciate the time. And
thanks for having me, Greg. Do you want me to talk now or not?
Sure. Where are you from?
Okay. I'm from Wisconsin, northeast Wisconsin.
Okay. And when I think of a Sherpa, I think of somebody leading guided tours up Mount Everest. But you are an Ordinary Sherpa. Tell us what that is.
Yes. So if you think of Sherpas, they really help other climbers, specifically in China and in those high altitude places, reach their summits. And it's a really critical environment, and it's really important that they have all of the right things to help those climbers. Well, an Ordinary Sherpa can be someone who's just an everyday, ordinary person who wants that sense of adventure, but may need some help getting there. And so I call myself the Ordinary Sherpa because my goal is really to build a community to inspire families to connect using adventure as the platform.
What prompted you to do this?
Well, it's been in my blood for quite a while, actually. As a child, I traveled a lot. And I felt like when I became a mom, I had to choose between being this adventurous person that I've grown to know and love and became so much a part of my personality, or be a mom. And I didn't love the idea of having to choose one or the other. I also had to choose between adventure and career half the time. And so I was always finding myself in this odd place and found myself wanting to just do it all. And so, quite honestly, it's been in my system for a while, and I've found ways to navigate and create my own stories around it. But during COVID and during the shutdown, I just realized that families were holding so much up, and adventure for us, the weekly field trips, the backyard adventures, those simple things that we were doing were really helping us to connect as a family. And I found a lot of value in that. And so that's really what inspired that to be my platform and to really inspire others along the way.
I think you're absolutely right about that. People don't realize how important it is, and maybe they do now after COVID, how those special family activities are so essential to bonding everybody together as a group.
Absolutely. And it was one of those things that I was not only spending time together with my family, but all of the other things went away. You know, the pressures of work and the pressures of school. And we could just be in that moment, and my kids began to flourish. And I think that was one of the things I was missing, was that there was so much pressure to figure all these other things out that we could let all that go. And adventure was the way that we started to really see those personalities shine.
How many children do you have?
I have three. I have a boy, girl, boy in that order, and they are 10, 8, and 5.
10, 8, and 5. Wonderful and delightful ages, especially for adventure. They're still full of discovery, and they kind of like their parents.
Yes, they do. Although not every day.
Right.
Yes. No, we found they're at that age where they can be independent enough to decide what they really want. You know, there's not as much, I don't know, coddling per se. But they really know, and they're so different. You know, each child is so different. So they're starting to find their own voice in this space. And, you know, they're old enough that they can do the hikes too. I think we found that even my 5-year-old is doing 5 and 6 mile hikes now. And it's just kind of fun to have a little bit more rigor.
My goodness, I'm embarrassed because I think I'm doing really well when I can do 3 miles without collapsing.
Yeah, well, it's not every day, just so you know.
Okay, sure. And I also have 3 children, and you know, it's different when you have 3. You know, I tell people that when you have, you know, you have 1 child, you've got a hobby. When you've got 2, it's work. And when it's 3 and they can outnumber the parents, then things get interesting.
Then you become a magician.
That's right. I love that. Oh, very good. Now, do you help people turn ordinary days into adventures, or are these just like special once a year kind of things?
No, so we have a couple different threads that we're working on. And in some ways, a lot of people still define their adventures around travel. So it might be a one-off thing that they're looking to aspire to. And there are others who aren't necessarily traveling right now yet. And so are thinking more about, like, how do we just get outside and do some adventurous things regular in our everyday life? And those I would call kind of our backyard adventure. So we have 2 kind of key people in our Sherpa community, so to speak. And both are fine, and they both support each other in that space. I have created a system personally that I use kind of the local treasures and encourage people to be tourists in their own neighborhoods or in their own towns, and inspire people to look for the hidden gems. You know, I call them the brown signs, the special attractions that you might not even think about unless you were forced to. You know, often when we're tourists, we look for those attractions. But when you live there, you don't necessarily look for them. So there's things like brown sign adventures, I call them, or bronze placards. You know, you look for the historical monuments and just get to know your community and your region better. And those are so I have both. You know, I have both the touristy side that are looking to travel and create adventures, and the epic adventurers, so to speak. And then I have the everyday people who just want to get outside and connect and do something active. So it could be both.
Yeah, I think that county parks are a often overlooked resource for families. I mean, they're inexpensive, often they're free, and there are plenty of things for them to do, especially short little hikes.
Yeah, that and I have found waterfalls are like my little nature crush. And I didn't
Yes.
know how many waterfalls were even in Northeast Wisconsin, where I'm based. And so these little brown signs that I started researching, it gave me insight into things I didn't even know existed in my area.
Hmm. Do you folks have an RV?
We have a pop-up camper. Well, I'll give you a little side note. We've been camping forever. And right now we're debating whether we buy an RV or if we wait just a little bit longer, but we're definitely on the path to an RV.
Okay. Very good. So you have a pop-up and you've been out and about doing that, which is where I think a lot of families really start. I mean, it's designed as a base camp. So you go somewhere and you use a pop-up to sleep and maybe make a meal, and then you go off and you enjoy your adventure.
Yeah.
And now you're looking for something maybe a little bit different so that you could do this more often and travel further.
Yeah, I think we are starting to test this idea of a remote lifestyle. Um, if I go back to the story of our camping career, it started in a tent a long time ago, my husband and I. And as we added children and dogs to that story, it became a little more cramped, a little more uncomfortable. And while that's okay in the short term, we're kind of at that place now with our pop up. We love our pop up. We love the ability to be up off the ground, have a little bit of shelter, have some amenities like, a dining room table and a roof over our heads and heat and air conditioning and power. But at the end of the day, we are still somewhat limited just with the bathroom and, some of those amenities. So while we don't necessarily need something major, if we want to look at longer term experiences, potentially a couple weeks or a month at a time, we have felt like we need something a little bit more rigorous than our little pop up. So it served us well, but I think we're ready to upgrade. However, I'll also say we're testing it because we've been traveling, kind of doing remote road trips throughout 2020, all inclusive, so that we were self-contained in a Class C RV. And so now we're intrigued, I think, with that as potentially our next RV.
Okay, so you're looking primarily at Class Cs at this point?
Yeah, I think so. We like the size of a Class C. And the other thing that we really like is the ability to be up and about as we need to be. Having three kids, there's always the bathroom breaks and the snacks and the entertainment. And so the ability to just sit at the dining room table and play a game, there was a lot of flexibility in that space. And yet we also have talked about even a fifth wheel. And we're like, well, then we have to stop, get out of the car, set everything up. We can pretty much grab and go quickly with a Class C. So far, again, it's suiting us well based on what we've seen and experienced.
That's right. I mean, with children, especially young children, you can say all the time, okay, it's time to go potty. We got to go potty before we leave. We're going to leave now. You got to go potty. And they don't have to do it until you've planted that seed and it's been allowed to germinate about 15 minutes into your next travel. And then they've got to go. So yes, having an RV is a big help in that regard.
Yeah. And even, the way we set up our day too is we're not good in one spot for a long time. So we also love the ability to get up early in the morning and go off an adventure. And then we kind of come back and park midday. I'll say park because usually we're in the RV sometime midday to do lunch and have a little bit of downtime. And then we go off and explore in the afternoon and evening again too. So yeah, I just think it's one of those things that it gives us a little bit more flexibility and aligns with our lifestyle.
Do you folks make your own meals in the RV or do you tend to eat out when you're on your adventures?
No, we tend to make our own meals for the most part. We might, depending on where we are, I guess camping all these years, we've always just made our own meals. So eating out seems like a luxury to us, but we'll try to have, one experience where we'll either do takeout or we'll go to a restaurant. But that's just kind of how we travel in general. So our meals are usually kid friendly. I think that's the other piece of, having kids. It's always, if we eat out, we always are, it's kind of funny. My husband and I will always order something that we know we can't have when the kids are with us, like we get to order whatever we want. So it's kind of a little treat. But otherwise we're making, variations of kid friendly food.
What are some of your kids' favorite foods?
For camping?
Yes.
We love walking tacos.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
just one thing that all of my kids eat. It's simple. We just have to cook the meat and, add whatever toppings are appropriate for us.
Hmm.
And we also love just a good old barbecue, whether it's over the campfire or if it's grilled. Burgers and brats I'm from Wisconsin, so brats are a big thing for us. It's hard to find them when we're traveling around the country, but
Right.
that's often one that I just know my kids will eat. And then we can add fruits and vegetables and things of that nature to it.
Tell
But yeah,
everybody,
we also go ahead.
tell everybody what a walking taco is.
Oh, yeah. A walking taco is essentially using a bag of Fritos and you put the meat and the fixings in the Frito bag. It becomes really small really quick. So
Hmm.
you're supposed to be able to eat on the go if you need to, but we usually end up dumping them all into a plate and eating them at the picnic table.
Okay. What other foods? I think you were trying to mention another one.
Oh, I would also say a fun campfire tradition for us. So we always have one night where we do a big campfire and we sit around and make dinner is pudgy pies. And we
Oh,
make pizza pudgy pies often, with pizza sauce and cheese and some kind of meat inside. And then it's always fun to do like a s'mores version or a dessert version or s'mores in general. So it's always kind of fun to do one night just around the campfire too.
and a pudgy pie uses a special iron, and you use two pieces of bread on each side of the iron, and then put topping in the middle and close the iron and cook it over the fire. And you can do just about anything. I mean, grilled cheese sandwiches to special desserts. Kids love making food that way.
Yeah, and when we're really adventurous, we'll do like cinnamon rolls or cookies in there. It's usually I don't usually have the patience for that over the fire, but the kids, if we're into it or if it's a crappy day or we're just not up for adventuring, that'll be some activity that we might do with the kids.
Have you ever rented an RV just because you wanted something bigger? You said you were using a Class C last year. Is that the first time you've ever rented one?
Yeah, well, we started actually renting. I would say as we upgrade each time we rent, it's kind of a try before you buy experience for us where we were considering the idea of purchasing something to upgrade from a tent. And that's when we rented a pop up camper from the local dealer. And then as we were considering, again, now that we're getting more and more into camping, that's when we started with the Class C RV. I haven't rented a trailer well, we don't have a vehicle for the fifth wheel.
Mm-hmm.
But Class A is a little bit intimidating for me yet because I don't want to drive something that big. I don't know. I feel like a school bus driver. So for me, the Class C and the pop up were much more manageable.
Mm-hmm. And you thought the experience was pretty good going through the rental process and picking it up and taking it back?
Yeah, overall, we had a really good experience. I think you learn what to look for. So for us, given that we are on the go a lot, we found there were a lot of renters who charge by the mile. And for us, that was pretty cost prohibitive. And we've seen a couple and a trend maybe in unlimited mileage. And that for us is kind of like a car rental experience, where you pick it up and you get your orientation and we walk through it and we ask every possible question we could imagine. And having done that now a couple of times, we feel pretty good about what our questions are, what concerns we have, what issues we might run into on the road. And so it's been pretty smooth for us. There's been a couple of things where, it doesn't have the kitchen utensils that we were expecting, or it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. They're just things that are more nuisances than anything. And things like refilling all of the tanks it just requires a little bit more planning. It's not cumbersome, but in all instances, we've had a really good experience and it's helped us decide, is this what we want or is this what we want? So we'll try different things. Even if it's not what we think we want, we'll sometimes try it just to see, well, maybe there's something about these amenities or these features. We've come to love, I know this is silly, but we've come to love the power awning. I don't know why, but I hate setting up the awning. I always am like afraid I'm going to break it or it's just a pain. So I'm like, well, the power awning now is a feature that I probably wouldn't have looked for or would have mattered to me before. But if I'm going to end up buying, I want to know that it's got a power awning.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great way to test things out because, a lot of people dream about being in the RV lifestyle. And so they think that, I'm really going to like this. But then when they get started, they're like, yeah, maybe not for me. Or maybe I should have gotten this rather than that. And so I don't think you're doing the great thing with renting an RV first and then seeing if you like that and then determining from that what kind of products and features you want on an RV you'd like to buy.
Yeah, and it's also helped us from activity planning, in terms of planning our experience with the kids, it helps us set our expectations. I kind of joke that the RV life for us opened our eyes to how simple and enjoyable life could be without all of this stuff. And I think that was scary for us as we were going into this. Like if we would have quit our jobs and gone on the road tomorrow, that was quite a transition for us that we weren't quite ready for. So it's also helping us not just on the RV buying experience, but even test the lifestyle to say, oh, how long could we be gone for? What is comfortable? When we went last summer, I guess, we went for our longest time away from home, and that was 2.5 weeks. And it was at the very end of that, I said, okay, kids, what do you think about this? Do you like it or what do you miss? And the two things that they missed were we didn't bring the dog, just because I wasn't sure if we could manage the dog. So they missed the dog and they missed their bikes. And I was like, oh, if that's it, we can handle this. So I think it's helping us test too in terms of connection and what kinds of things do they miss that we don't necessarily miss our lifestyle of all the things in our life and all the schedules. That I think was really freeing and eye-opening for us.
Where did you rent the RV? From a dealership or a private renter?
We've done both. We've done a dealership and a private owner. And I don't really have a preference one over the other. Both have been really good.
Okay. And when you are saying that the kids were responding positively to this, is it positively to maybe we could do this full time, or that they just like being in the RV?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've set the RV up at our house once or twice to sleep in, and they actually never sleep in it. So I think it's really the idea of getting away from home and all the comforts of home. That is what's exciting for them. I'm not really sure what it is. I think it's maybe curiosity and intrigue is what's getting their attention. And I don't know how long that will last. When we think about our RV life, both my husband and I work full time and probably will be yet for a couple of years. But as we were thinking about we were actually thinking about RV living in retirement. And then I think we both started questioning, like, why are we waiting? What is it about? Like, why would we have to wait another 20 years in order to do this? Why don't we start doing it now? And then it was like, well, what about schooling? And then what about our jobs? And do we do this or do we do that? So it's just opened up a lot of questions for us. And every year we're like, okay, so what are we going to test this year? I'm going for a little bit longer period this summer. Testing because I am working remote. I have a little bit more flexibility. I'm still putting in my hours, but working remotely. So we're going to see how that goes because I think my husband is a teacher, so he's off in the summer. So really it's just me then that has to manage my work schedule. So we're going to see how that works and figure out if that's reasonable and what our expectations are on that longer experience.
I don't think you are alone at all in that many parents are realizing that, they could take the same amount of money that they spend every year on trinkets that they give to their kids and technology and stuff that just accumulates in their bedrooms and then in the basement and in the garage and all that. And they use that same amount of money to buy experiences for their children instead, things that they will remember forever. And it sounds like you are realizing that, the kids really like that just as much, if not more.
Yeah. And I think all this stuff just adds noise to our life. And then they have to pick it up and put it away or it breaks. And so I would also say that experience those are the things they remember about life. It's not always the stuff. While they might think they want this toy for their birthday or whatever, the memories always come from the experiences. And it's been great. I mean, we've been on some really fun adventures. And I think back to my own childhood and I'm like, man, my kids are spoiled because they have done all these different things that I only dreamed of doing. And not that I had a deprived childhood or anything. It just wasn't the path. You took one vacation a year and it was usually a road trip or, we would still fly, but it was very small. It was a more simple framework, I guess. The idea of traveling full time just didn't seem within reach.
What are some of your favorite adventures so far?
Oh gosh, it has been everything. So I will say my kids get to choose, like when they're on 5 or 6, what their travel goals are. And my son is extremely into baseball. And he has been since he was 2 years old. So he decided around age 4 that he wanted, I don't know if it was him or my husband and I both coercing him, that he wanted to visit all the Major League Baseball stadiums in the country. There's 30 of them. And so that was a fun way for us to reframe, instead of always getting sold on where we were going to go, it set the destination for us. And then we have to research. Like our baseball games are really only one day while we're there. And we're usually gone for 4 or 5 days. So I think that mystery and intrigue of just finding out what's all available in these locations is really fascinating. Plus, Major League Baseball stadiums are in a really fun, they're all in fun cities that we haven't been to. So that was fun. My daughter is, she set her standards a little higher and wants to visit all the national parks. So now I believe there's 63. And so that's a different level. They're not all next to baseball stadiums. So we have to get creative in how we do those things. So I would say between the two, we've had some really interesting urban experiences and we've had some really fun off the beaten path experiences. I would say one of our favorites as a family was hiking on a glacier in Alaska. And it was a little funny. We had a guide. We were, and I'm not going to remember, I think it was the Mantanuska Glacier. And my son was just about to turn 6, but you needed to be 6 to be on this guided hike. And so he's like, I'm 6 today. And I was like, yep, you are. But he acted like a 6-year-old too. So we really had a lot of fun. And having a guide, my husband and I were able to really enjoy it and take in this amazing scenery. It's so fascinating because even things like your sense of smell changes. And there's so many things that we don't pay attention to. And as parents, you're often worried about like the safety aspect. So that experience was really, really fun where we all connected. And I would say another one was probably when we were in Southern Oregon. We decided to do the Pacific Coast Highway and went from, mid-state all the way down to Northern California. And I just think each day was like a whole new adventure. We did Thorswell and we did the lighthouse and we did the city of Bandon and Face Rock and all these different things. And it was jumping into this magic school bus. And every time you stopped, it was this whole new experience. And after about 7 days of that, we were all like, what could we possibly do next? We had seen so many amazing things in this period that I think that really opened our eyes. And we had so much fun on that trip.
I've talked to a number of children who are being full-time or who are part of a full-time RVing family, and they are being what's called road schooled. And they get to go visit these places that other students read about or watch a film strip about. And that's got to make an impression in their lives, I would imagine.
Yeah. And we don't formally road school, but I have definitely explored it. There is, I've looked at unschooling and world schooling and road. There's all these different nuances to how you school. And I think it's just so different to, like you said, when you look at having been a former teacher, when you look at how people learn, you really only retain like 10% of what you read versus you retain almost 90% of what you experience and can teach others. So I think the experience is so much deeper when you experience it, see it, do it versus just reading about it.
A lot of the national parks have some outstanding junior ranger programs. Have your kids participated in any of those?
Yeah, we've done a couple. I can't remember. I know in Cuyahoga Valley, which is in Ohio, we had, and I can't remember what the activity was, but it was essentially building something out of wood from scratch. And so it's just really fun. And we haven't done a lot of them usually because it requires us to have a schedule and we're a little more free flowing. So we have done some, but sometimes the age limitations or the schedule haven't allowed us to participate as much as we would like. During COVID, though, most of those went virtual and you could actually download the booklets and do the activities on your own. So we did do that for Lassen Volcanic National Park and Crater Lake National Park, and they were fun. But again, it was hard with the 5-year-old and the 10-year-old. They're just at different wavelengths. So it was a little more of mom, like, what does this say? Or, it wasn't quite as immersive and as a typical junior ranger experience would have been.
Have you experienced any challenges when you've been out traveling?
Yes.
Yes. But that's part of the memories, right?
Absolutely. And I never look back on those and go, oh, I wish I would have done this differently. I think that's what makes us stronger. And I think that's what makes it so memorable. I think about some of our times, and most of them are camping. It's mostly related to weather or just things that, these crazy things that pop up. My son, we were all biking and my son had a small little accident where who knows what exactly happened, but it was not fun to be around him or to take care of him after he fell off his bike. It wasn't life altering or anything like that, but it was just traumatic in the moment of like, how am I going to take care of this kid and get him back to camp when I've got a bike? And yeah, it was more complicated than it needed to be. We've also run into wildlife. And I think as much as that's cool, it's also like, ooh, we've had a couple bear experiences and a couple moose experiences where we were like, okay, kids, gather in. And they weren't bad. They weren't horrible. They're really cool experiences. But I think in that moment as a mom, I was like, holy cow, guys, listen to me. Yeah. I know you don't always do that, but right now I need you to listen. So
a moose is a rather large animal. And when you see them for the first time, I have yet to do it in the wild, but I guess it is just a majestic experience.
Yes. And they are so large that I think it takes your breath away a little bit. Like I'm almost 6 feet tall and they are way taller than me. Not that I was up close measuring, but I was like, this guy is huge. and they're pretty unpredictable. Mm-hmm. So they look kind of docile, but they're very different than deer. They're not as skittish and they can get pretty aggressive pretty fast. So I think that was the one that it did take my breath away on multiple levels.
A lot of people think they must be retired in order to embrace a more adventurous lifestyle, but you don't. Why is that?
Well, I think it has to do with what do you think retirement is and why would you wait to be retired in order to have that life? I think, I don't know, maybe modern day culture tells you work, and then play. And I just decided to work and play nonstop. So I actually once was asked the question, I'm in a career that I really enjoy. And someone asked me what my next move was going to be. And I was like, well, I guess it's retirement, but I don't know if I can wait that long. So I think that reframed like, well, why am I waiting in the first place? And so we decided to be really intentional, my husband and I, after that and say, let's just design the life to be what we want it to be now. Because our kids, you can adventure, you can do all the things with your kids that you want to do in retirement. And I never wanted to wish away this aspect, this chapter of my life. I wanted to really write the story and enjoy it rather than look back and say, oh, I wish we would have done that, or I wish we would have done that. So, I mean, there's probably a little carpe diem in me that I'm just too stubborn to wait.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's still a good thing, I think. Now, you said your husband was a teacher, and yeah, it would be really hard to do that kind of job remotely. I guess they've done it for the past year, but eventually the schools are going to open up again and they'll expect him to probably be in front of the students in person. But what about you? Is the job that you have something you could do remotely?
Yes and no. I think I can do parts of it remotely, but there are aspects that are just better in person, and so I work in a family philanthropy. I lead a family foundation. And so it's really getting to know the community and the problems that you're trying to solve. And in many cases, I'm convening partners and telling them about the solutions that we're working on. And so there's an element that like structurally I could work remote, and I have been working remote pretty successfully for the last year, a little over almost a year. But there are aspects that are probably better suited to be in person. So it goes back and forth. That's why I think we're also trying to figure out what is the right balance of remote versus or on the road versus at home.
Mm-hmm. So you see this not as necessarily as a full-time opportunity for RVing, but certainly for some extended trips, maybe a month or two at a time.
Yeah. And we're also thinking gap year. So we're thinking like in 5 years, we'll take a year off and do an extensive around the world or country type experience. We haven't decided which one it is yet. So there is potential. And as we keep eking our way up and extending the amount of time that we're gone, there is potential to have a year off. My husband has the ability to take a sabbatical, potentially, if that's of interest to us. So there is this concept of a gap year experience where we decide, is this right for us? Is this what we really want our life to look like going forward? So again, I would just say it's that continual testing for us to decide what is it we want it to be.
Sure. You said that your children have bucket lists of things that they want to do. Do you involve them in the planning process at all?
Absolutely. So I try to, it's really hard to describe my planning process. I tend to have a list, a constantly running list of potential places. I'm bookmarking places all the time or journaling and keeping things in the background of where we might want to go. And when, like right now, we're thinking about, okay, what does summer look like for us this year or spring break, which is coming up relatively quickly? We don't really have anything planned. So we're like, okay, well, we want this, this, and this. So we're looking for maybe some historical experiences, some warm weather, and some hikes. And then we just kind of go from there, where I and my husband will figure out what the options are in terms of where we go. And then the kids usually start to research what's available in that area that they are interested in. So as an example, my daughter and my youngest son love horses. Well, I'm not so much of a horse lover and I don't really want to be riding on a horse. So I ended up finding in southern Arizona one time, right around Saguaro National Park, there was also this horse ranch. So the kids could actually ride the horses during the day in a day camp experience. And my husband and I and my older son could do whatever we wanted. And so that was like the perfect mix of, everyone got a piece of what they wanted on that trip. So we try to find ways not only to them to do what they want to do on the experience, but also have some insights in planning it too.
Okay. So they're looking to see what kinds of things might be available for them to do that they would be interested in a particular area you're planning to visit?
Yeah. Yeah. They'll, I think the way they go about it is going to YouTube and saying things to do for free or things to do in this city. And that's usually their starting point. Mine's probably a little bit more complicated than that, but I also use, videos or searches online, or I'm in a number of Facebook groups. So I'll kind of test the waters with other travel friends or road schooling friends or RV friends and just kind of say, hey, where have you been? And like I said, there's always a list in the back of my mind of where the potential is.
What are some of the things your kids like to do when traveling, or do they pretty much rely on DVDs?
Oh, no. Well, they would probably like to rely on DVDs, but I don't. So since we've been doing this, since they were, I think all of our kids have been on an airplane or been on a road trip within 2 weeks of being born. So they've been doing this since birth and have become pretty accustomed travelers. So I would say they're pretty good when it comes to long trips. But we also have had activity kits. So I've done things like mystery bags where on big road trips, every state they get a new activity and they participate in it. I have found traveling wise, pipe cleaners is one of the best travel hacks for kids because they don't make a lot of noise. There's a million things you can do with them and they're $1. So for us, there's always pipe cleaners in that pack of goodies. I usually require them to bring a book or an audio book. They love to draw. And even when we're driving, they seem to find a way. My kids love drawing and journaling. So, one road trip, we were heading down to St. Louis. So that was probably about a 10-hour trip for us. And I brought along like a metal baking sheet so that they could play with magnets. And so I don't know, we just always find different ways to engage them. And it's not always serendipitous, by the way. It's not, there are days where you're like, oh my gosh, let's just get there. But for the most part, they're pretty active and creative. And if you can kind of break it up with different activities, they do have tablets now and we do have DVDs. So that's an option. But, once that DVD is over, we're like, okay, next step, next activity. So we try to limit their screen time.
Okay, very good. If people wanted more information about how to lead a more adventurous life, how could they get it from you?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways. I have the website, ordinarysherpa.com, or I have a podcast. Again, you can find it at ordinarysherpa.com or any podcast player for that matter. I'm pretty active on Instagram, and then I also have a Facebook group. So those are probably the easiest ways to get in touch with me.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Heidi. I really appreciate the time. You've provided a lot of great information, especially for parents who are traveling with their kids. And I like how your approach to looking at this as an opportunity for you to do some short-term adventures with your kids and maybe before even jumping into it full time. So thank you again for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Greg. It was an honor.
I really appreciate Heidi Dusek sharing her family stories and describing how their adventures prompted her to serve as an ordinary Sherpa and helping other families add the flavor adventure to their lives. Heidi pointed out that many people believe adventures must be epic to be enjoyable and memorable. For example, they may think that going on an adventure means to hop on an airplane or a cruise ship to visit some far-off destination. However, Heidi's family looks for what they call brown sign adventures in their area that others may overlook because they are so close or so routine. County parks and historical sites are perfect examples. There are still places to go hiking, camping, cook outdoors, go on a nature scavenger hunt, play games, and just be together doing something ordinary in a way that makes it extraordinary. Having an RV goes a long way to helping Heidi's family enjoy low-cost adventures. By making their own meals in an RV, they can invest more money into paying admission fees or acquiring tools that let the kids explore. Heidi urges families to consider renting RVs to see if they like it before they jump in and buy an RV. Renting allows people to evaluate different types of equipment to see what they'd like to have in an RV of their own. For example, setting up an awning was always a cumbersome task for Heidi until she discovered power awnings. Owning a motorhome would also allow the Duseks to bring two things that their kids really missed when traveling, and that was their dog and their bikes. The bottom line to becoming an ordinary Sherpa is that it doesn't require a lot of additional money, just a reallocation of resources people already have. People who don't think they could own an RV may be surprised to discover how affordable it really is when they factor in not having to eat out all the time. The money parents spend on trinkets for their kids that just add noise to their lives and clutter to the house can be reinvested into memory-making park admissions and tools like butterfly nets and fishing poles. To learn more about Heidi Dusek and what Ordinary Sherpa can do for you, please visit www.ordinarysherpa.com. If you're just exploring the RV lifestyle and work camping options, consider enrolling in The Dreamer's Journey, a new online course produced by Workamper News. Life is way too short to keep your dreams on hold, so don't be held back by fear because you were designed for more. Get started with the RV lifestyle the right way with this comprehensive guide. For just $29.95 for 90 days of access, Dreamers have unlimited viewing of 50-plus videos to learn things like what type of RV to buy, goal setting, how to budget for the adventure, developing a positive mindset, setting up a domicile, operating a small business on the road, and everything else about work camping, including how to find a job that's right for you. Each video is 30 to 90 minutes long to provide an in-depth coverage on dozens of topics. There's no wrong time to get started. For more information, visit www.rvdreamersjourney.com. That's all I have for this week's show. Next time, I'll be interviewing someone looking for several work camping couples to travel the country, conducting extensive evaluations of major retail centers. It's a really lucrative opportunity for the right people. I'll have more details next week on The Workamper Show. Thanks for listening.